I started noticing symptoms as I was going through that. I started getting the dizziness, I started getting like just extreme fatigue, kind of like starting to have some of the depression, anxiety type symptoms, but it hadn't fully manifested yet. Just doing 5 squats, I'm like, whoo, that was a lot. My legs would be a little bit tired. Or when I started doing push-ups again, 5 push-ups, I'm like my body's shaken by the time I'm on the fifth one. But I progressed so fast to where within a week, I'm like, okay, I think I'm gonna push up to 10. And Krista wasn't really telling me at that point. She was just like sitting back and listening and saying, good, keep going. If you're feeling good, keep going.
How's it going, Thrivers? Miguel here from CFS Recovery. In this video, we have Mark all the way from Iowa, 46 years old, and he's really turned his life and his health around. He went from dealing with a lot of fatigue, a lot of pain in the body, a lot of dizziness and other symptoms. He was at the point where he couldn't even work out anymore, and he was functional, but very, very symptomatic to today, not very long later. He's working out hard again, strength is back, he's running his business again. So Mark, so awesome to have you here. You want to quickly introduce yourself to everybody watching this right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, pleasure to be here. So, yeah, my name is Mark Lane from Des Moines, Iowa, 46 years old. I'm a real estate investor, been in business, had my own business for 15 years. This illness essentially happened. My initial crash happened in September of 2023. And, you know, took a while, but yeah, feeling fantastic now, doing everything that I did before.
Yeah, you're crushing it now. I know Krista fills me in on your situation. You're working out hard in the gym again, doing pretty intense exercises, but it's always interesting talking to other business owners or people in business who get this kind of stuff. So maybe let's rewind the clock a little bit. When all of this stuff first hit you, what was that like? And was there anything in particular that caused it, or you just hit a wall after pushing your body to the limits?
Yeah, so I got divorced at the end of 2019. And it was a pretty brutal divorce. I lost time with my daughter. There's a lot of uncertainty as happened with my business and properties and all that kind of stuff. And it was pretty brutal divorce. So I started noticing symptoms like as I was going through that. I started getting the dizziness, I started getting like just extreme fatigue, kind of like starting to have some of the depression, anxiety type symptoms, but it hadn't fully manifested yet. And so I went through, I don't know how much details we want to get into, but went through sometimes those periods of like really bad fatigue and depression stuff would last for 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks, and then they kind of let up a little bit, and then they start all over again. And it was like that pretty consistently for about a year and a half to 2 years. Can't remember exact timeline, but I remember going to the doctor eventually just because I couldn't get those symptoms to go away. I didn't like that fatigue. I was drinking tons of energy drinks, pounding as much caffeine as I could, and nothing I could do would get that fatigue to go away. And so went into the doctor, and of course they tell me, well, I think you've got depression, take this medicine. And I just had a feeling it wasn't depression. Not to mention, not to say there wasn't a little bit of depression there. There might have been a little bit, but I felt like there's something wrong. So then, instead of getting on the medicine, which I never did take it, I decided, you know what, like I need to get my personal habits back in place, right? Because I've always been into like personal growth, and when I built my business and like leading up into my business, I did tons of reading and going to seminars and audiobooks. Like I was pushing a lot of stuff into my mind, a lot of really good positive stuff. And after the divorce, I just wasn't doing any of that anymore. I found myself drinking a little bit more, like just so I said, you know what, I'm gonna put the good stuff back into my life first. And so I started doing that. I started working out again, started getting disciplined with my diet. I came from a background of bodybuilding, so I know how to diet well, work out hard. So I started doing that, and I kind of had a goal of like, you know what, I want to get down to 10% body fat again. I started like 16%, and I did. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to go down to 8%. So I pushed down to 8%. I said, man, I want to push it to 6%. So then I started pushing it, and I got down to like 6.7 or 6.8. So anyway, I started pushing it to trying to push it down to 6% body fat. So then, yeah, I mean, that's end of 2022. And we're talking, I was working out 3 hours a day, hour and a half in the morning, hour and a half at night, really restricted diet, all that. And towards the end of that, I started getting really bad head pressure, um, like dizziness, and it was getting worse. So I kind of peaked out the body fat, like I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, and then I took some time off, and I felt okay. Didn't really have too much issues. And then the next year, this will be beginning of 2023, February March timeframe, I started getting that really bad head pressure again. And then going into March, I started with heart palpitations, and they were very serious heart palpitations. So between the two of those, like, I mean, they were pretty severe to the point to where I was only working about half days. It's just one, all the energy I had, and two, like, I mean, I was taking a lot of ibuprofen, anything I do to try to like get symptoms to subside. So that pushed me into down the rabbit hole of doctors and going to cardiology and all that stuff. Tests were always good. So then we get into, yeah, September of 2023, and I had like this weekend where I just had the worst fatigue. I mean, anybody, I don't really have to explain the fatigue because probably anybody that's watching this has had it happen, but it was just unbearable. Like even now, I'm like, think back, I'm like, I can't hardly even imagine having that again. But everybody in my life was all the women in my life, my mom, my girlfriend at the time, my stepdaughter, like they were all out of town. Nobody could help watch my daughter. So I still had to like push through, help watch my daughter, get her dinner, all that kind of stuff. And I remember like just barely even have the energy to like put a pizza in the oven. I just couldn't hardly like muster up any energy at all. We ended up at the mall I had to get her a couple things. And I turned around and looked in one of the mirrors, and I had these big old black circles under my eyes. I'm like, what is going on? And I asked her, I was like, can you see these? And she's, yeah, are you okay? And I was like, I don't know, something's not right. Then the next day started back to work, and that's when everything hit. That's like my hands clenched up to the point where I couldn't even open a doorknob with one hand. My legs got super weak. I could barely walk downstairs. My cognitive ability was just, it was just instantly shot. Like any conversation I'd have, I'd just be stuttering all over the place, like no short-term memory. And so basically from that point for the next 3 months, it was just a whirlwind of going to all the different doctors, infectious disease, endocrinology, neurology. When I spent probably $25,000 on doctors and hospital visits that cost $4,000 a piece, and every single one of them said there's nothing wrong with you. So that just kind of, it's a few month process. And I think, and that was about that same time. And I'm going to digress just a little bit because I think it's in case anybody ever has this, but there was that anxiety that had sat in too. And one of the things I thought I had, because like I had muscle twitches, really bad muscle twitches throughout my whole body. And I had lost a ton of weight. I lost about 20 pounds in a month. My body was just shredding muscle tissue. And so I thought I had, Googling symptoms, I thought I had ALS. In fact, I was dead set that I had it. And like I literally was getting my trust in place. I was preparing to die. I was like, I made up my eulogy because of stuff I wanted to like tell my daughter. And I mean, it was crazy stuff. So at the end of 2023, when I finally had my neurology appointment, he said, you most definitely do not have ALS. That was kind of, because then I finally realized I'm not dying. And like just all the fear and anxiety just kind of melted away. And at the same time, and this was, before I had come across your stuff, I found my way into a Reddit group talking about essentially adrenal fatigue, and which kind of leads into all this. Started finding out what was going on, and I started hearing of other people going through stuff, and their symptoms matched up so identical to things I was going through that I hadn't heard anybody else go through. I'm like, okay, I'm not dying. I think I know what's going on. And then I just started saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to just try to allow myself to heal from this rather than be scared. So that's a turning point. So into December 2023, I started turning the corner, still terrible condition, but I at least didn't have the fear of death anymore.
Mhm. And did the doctors ever find something that, could explain what was going on? Because I mean, by this point, by the time you saw them, you've been on this journey for, I think, what, over a year?
Yeah.
Right? You
Yeah.
started really.
No, because everything always checked out. A couple hospital visits I went to, they would turn me away within an hour. They'd be like, do my vitals, do all my blood work. They're like, everything looks great. And I'm like, what do you mean it looks great? And I've heard your other interviews and read posts about people saying it's like, you kind of want a diagnosis because you just want answers, right? You like, so I'm frustrated that I'm not getting them telling me I've got something serious. At the same time, like I was explaining to my best friend one day, like going to all these different tests, he's, well, that's good, right? That they're saying it's negative and whatever else. I'm like, yeah, like that's good, but also it's what's going on. Is relieving and frustrating all at the same time.
Yeah, it's like a super double-edged sword because there is that immediate relief, but then you go home and now you're back to the drawing board of like, Okay, so they didn't find anything, but the symptoms are still here. And
Yeah.
when you keep flaring up, you're like, okay, is it some mystery illness that they haven't found yet that I'm just going to be stuck with for the rest of my life? And a lot of those thoughts can come in. Just like you said, you wrote your eulogy. I would play that in my head of like, okay, in a year's time at this rate, like basically who's going to be at my funeral?
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was a time where, I mean, and it was after like mid September hit, like that initial crash. Within a week of that time frame, I remember being in the grocery store with my girlfriend at the time, and it was like, I think they call it disassociation or something, where I knew where I was, but I couldn't like make sense out of anything. I couldn't like, I had no emotion. I had no like, I was just existing. And I was just like sobbing in the grocery store and not so out of character, like of who I am and what I do. And she's like, why don't you go outside and sit in the truck? And so I go outside and I'm like, of course, at this point, again, I'm like all cramped up. I can't even hardly get in a truck. I can't drive, like any of this stuff. And I call my ex-wife and I'm saying, like, I can't watch Isabel anymore, my daughter. I was like, I can't watch, I don't trust myself with her, and I love my time with her. But just, and even just saying that, I was like crying on the phone. I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. If I'm progressing this quickly, what am I going to be like in a week or two? Am I going to be in a coma? Am I going to be like, is this progressive dementia? I don't know. But yeah. And then oddly enough, other times, like in fact, that exact day from the grocery store, I get home and randomly it's like my lights came back on. And all of a sudden I was seeing clear, brain fog would be gone, and my mood would kind of be lifted. It was like knowing what I know now, I was like cortisol was hitting, like I was feeling a little bit better during that part of the day. And I'm like, it just makes no sense at all. So it's confusing.
Oh, it's wild. And I would feel like I was going crazy. I'm like, is this really happening? Am I just losing my mind? I feel like I'm going psychotic because I'll
Mhm.
switch personalities very quickly. Like I'll be sobbing and then next thing you know, it's just crazy. Like you can't even
I,
write.
I think that's one of the things that bothered me so much was people that knew me were doubting my character. It's like my ex-girlfriend, even my mom, they're kind of like, well, I just didn't really know if it was as serious as you were acting it to be. I'm like, have you ever known me to be a dramatic, like exaggerative type of person? Like never. And you're thinking that I'm making this up somehow. Like, why would I do that? So that was almost like that was hurtful, but I after watching one of your videos, I just had to realize, okay, watching one of your videos, I remember you saying how you want your family, friends to understand what you're going through, but yet we love them so much, we would never want them to have to understand what we go through. That helped me a lot because it allowed me to forgive them and just say, you know what, this isn't their fault. They just can't understand it.
Yeah, exactly. So what happened after that when you're going to all these doctors, you're trying everything and it's not working and they're not finding anything? What did you try to do to fix the stuff after that?
Yeah, so I was again, I was part of this Reddit group that was just a lot of information, and some of it was good. But in the beginning, I would say I was trying all kinds of different supplements. I was going to a lady that kind of considered herself like a healer. I was just trying more of kind of homeopathic type stuff. And one of the things I learned, maybe we'll get into this, but one of the things I learned along the way is a lot of the path to progress in this is not doing, but it's in the not doing, right? And I still get those questions like, well, what'd you do to heal? And I'm like, I quit doing everything. That was my answer. But in the beginning, yeah, I was trying everything from change my diet. Thankfully, compared to you and some other stories I've heard, I never really had diet type issues. I didn't, I could tolerate any type of food all the way through. But yeah, I tried to change my diet. I like was doing cleanses at one point. I think in the beginning when I thought I had something really terrible, I was taking like 50 pills a day or something like that of just all kinds of random supplements. And then, of course, over as time moved on, I started just letting all of them go. And now it's just the basics. I was doing red light therapy. I was doing like saunas. I was trying to do anything to detox, just trying anything that I thought would give me just a little bit of boost.
Yeah, and that's usually the case for most people. We're so desperate. We'll go Google, we'll search up anything and try it because it gets to a point where you come to an understanding, okay, the doctors seems like they're not going to help me really understand. I'm going to have to dig myself out of this. So even if it just makes me feel like 5% better, I'll take that risk if I could just somehow move in the right direction. So
Mhm.
you come across our channel and when did you find out about us?
Yeah. So in that Reddit group, somebody had posted, there's another channel that they posted that I thought his stuff, he wasn't I don't think he's really a coach, but he was just documenting his story. I came across his stuff first. I thought it was really helpful. It gave me one of the things he was talking about was just different stages of this. So got a little bit of an understanding of like where I was in the process of it all. And then still being in the Reddit group, somebody had posted your information. So I checked it out, watched some of the videos, and I was really wanting to be a part of something. I'm like, I want to be in a community where people understand this. And like looking back over my life as an entrepreneur and business owner, I've always put myself in situations where I'm around an expert, like somebody that has done it, that succeeded, that has the answers. Like I will pay anything to be around that person because they're going to get me they're going to get me to it faster than trying to do it by myself. And so I was looking for something. So it wasn't like once I found your stuff, I'm like, oh, there's a coaching group I could be a part of. I'm like, I jumped right in. I didn't think twice about it.
Yeah, I remember that first call when we were going over all your stuff, and I was like, "Hey, this is how the plan looks. We'll do this and this, focus on this stuff." And you're like, "Okay, yeah, yeah, that's
You're like, what do you think? I'm like, yep, let's go. You're probably like, okay. Send the paperwork over.
yeah, yeah." So you came on board, and this was about 7 months ago, I believe, 6, 7 months ago. And what was it like for that first month, just being on calls with other people, being able to work closely with Coach Krista, and really just getting a plan in place? What was that like, and was it what you expected when you first came in?
Well, admittedly, about the first month, I wasn't that plugged in. I was part of it, but I think I was still just struggling enough. I still had enough of the fatigue and dizziness to where it's like some of those nights, the calls, I'm like, just didn't feel like I could put myself out there. But then I would kind of like jump back on, watch some of the videos again, get inspired. I just needed to commit that time to really go through everything and learn. And once I finally did that, and I was probably in one of my better phases when I finally just like really splurged on a bunch of videos like all at once. But it made all the difference. And then I said, okay, I need to start getting plugged into this. So started plugging into the group calls, and yeah, it helped. It was almost just like therapy in a way for me. I don't necessarily know that the group calls gave me so much like information, but it was just kind of like therapy. And in some ways, I had enough healing. I was in a better place than a lot of people on the calls. And so just being an encouraging person for them as well. But yeah, as far as working with Krista, it's fantastic. Just so even still, like there's still sometimes I'll have like little baby symptoms that pop up and I'll be like, am I healing? And then I'll look back to the workout that she had me on in the very beginning, which was like a workout that literally took 3 minutes to do and I was done. It was 5 push-ups and 5 squats and 5 arm curls and that's it type thing. But had I not had that instruction, and that's why I signed up. Like I signed up for that instruction of just somebody to like give me the plan. Like I will do anything. I just need the plan of like how do I navigate this? And so that helped tremendously. It was just the tiny little baby steps that I needed to start walking through it as opposed to trying to do it on my own, which would be like, oh, I'm going to jump out there and try to do it all at once. And I did that on my own, and I just kept kind of like falling backwards. So just that a little bit of accountability, but also just the baby steps, just the plan it helped a lot.
Yeah. And going back to what you said earlier, sometimes less is more. So touch more on that of how you realized you didn't need to be doing as much and you actually did less things in order to start gaining traction, less things and really just simplifying the recovery process. But really helpful things that you implemented to move the needle in your recovery, like anything that really stood out.
Yeah, I just let as much go as I possibly could. So Um, kind of give you an example. I was having all the symptoms. This was palpitations, head pressure, like all this kind of stuff. And I was still running my business and I was trying to write a book and I was like still trying to like push through and do all this stuff. And I was still trying to work out even with those symptoms going on. And compared to now or over the last 6 months and after going through training, you start to ask yourself questions again of like, why am I doing this? Why do I feel the need to keep pushing so hard? There's nobody placing that requirement on me. There's no expectations on me. Like, why do I keep pushing it like this? And so a lot of it was just some self-discovery as well of, you know what, if I feel great and my health is fantastic and I'm kind of like an A-type personality and I want to go conquer the world, then fantastic, as long as I have a little bit of balance in there. But if I'm in pain and I'm hurting and I need to recover, there's no requirements on me to go do all this stuff. Like just take a chill and just relax. So going into 2024, I just started cutting everything out. I cut all my social media out. I've got Facebook. That's it. I cut all the other social platforms out. I was doing a podcast. I cut that. I was doing podcast was a big one. I was doing kind of a coaching business. Cut that. Just all the extra. So I just like anything in my life that wasn't really necessary to live and to get by and provide for my daughter and all that. I just cut it all out. Cut almost all the supplements out, aside from just some very basic ones that are good for us. I pretty much cut alcohol out for the most part. Occasionally, if I'm going out every once in a while, I might have a drink, but just kind of found that that's one of the very few things that will trigger a system flare up. Will be alcohol. So I just cut that out, that's to our advantage anyway. It's not good for us. I really started focusing on sleeping more. In fact, I'm blessed to have a schedule to where I can control that. But I started allowing myself just to sleep as much as I could. If I needed 9 hours, 10 hours, 11, whatever it is, I give it to myself. That was a big one. I think that really helped a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Taking the pressure off is huge. That was the same thing for me. Like when I got rid of the timelines as well, I got to get better by this time, or by this summer, I should be doing X, Y, Z.
yeah.
Off those time limits and those set finish lines, it really helped take the pressure off.
Yep. Yeah.
Because
Yeah. I quit setting goals, at least for that time frame. I have goals now because I feel really good again. But yeah, I just let go of all my goals of just saying like these things are gonna happen. And if they never do, it's okay. Like I'm still loved, I'm still happy, whatever. So I just took anything that was applying pressure to my life in some way, I just removed it. Is the best way to put it.
yeah. And in terms
Um,
of mind shifts that you had, things like some people say, when I realized the golden rule is responding well to symptoms, or when I realized it was really my hypersensitive nervous system, that's when everything clicked. Was there any of those aha moments for you where the light bulb went off and it,
Yeah, I'd say several of them. I just kind of hit on a couple of them. Realizing it was just my nervous system and being able to look at any symptoms I have and just say, okay, it's my nervous system like talking back to me. And it sounds weird. I was just telling somebody just yesterday, I started treating my nervous system like it was a separate entity. Like when I'd go to sleep at night, I'd be laying in bed, I'd talk to my nervous system. Hey, thank you for carrying me through this. I know it's been hard on you. Thank you for taking care of my body. And thank you for allowing me a good night's sleep. Like I just started talking to it like it was another person, and because I treated it as something that I needed to start taking care of. So rather than like just my nervous system being a part of my body and everything else, like I wanted to treat it as something like, hey, I want you to know I'm taking care of you in every way I can. So I'd talk nice to it. I'd do it but by doing that, by vocalizing it and talking to it, I think it also helped me proactively do the right things to take care of it, to create a safe zone for it, a safe space.
yeah, that's huge. Like you start to see your nervous system and your body as like you guys are on the same team versus before when you're flaring up. I used to look at my body as like my enemy, like it's out to
Mhm.
get, it's this horrible thing, until I realized it was actually trying to protect me because it was in survival mode.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So I'd say that was a really big one of realizing that too, of just saying, you know what, like when my symptoms are flaring up, it's just my nervous system reacting so that it can keep me safe. It's throwing the symptoms at me to say, hey, I need more rest. I need more time before you start getting aggressive again. And so seeing that, I'm like, okay, like symptoms aren't something to be scared of. Instead, they're something to say, hey, this is my body's way of protecting me and its way of talking to me, essentially. So yes, I mean, I've almost kind of been away for a long enough time to where I'm kind of forgetting some of this, but yeah, now that you bring it back, like all that stuff, it made such a difference.
Yeah, and it's just feedback. It's just data your
Yeah.
bodies feed you essentially. Like, I stopped putting moral labels on it. I was no longer saying these are bad, the symptoms are horrible. I was just like, oh, it's just intense, but that's all it is. It's just feedback it's trying to tell me something.
Mhm. And I think when we recognize it that way and don't put a label on it or whatever, we also it's easy to not react to it anymore. It's easy to just say, you know what, it just is. It's just that's just what's going on. I'm not going to react. I'm not going to get scared. I'm not going to worry. It's just I know what's going on now, so I don't have any reason to have fear about it.
And how did it look when you were expanding physically? Like when we started working out again, I know we started super easy, like 5 push-ups, 5 reps of just a few things. And then
Mhm.
to the point now, maybe just share with everybody, what kind of workouts are you doing right now?
Yeah. So yeah, I'll start from the beginning. So yeah, in the beginning, it was quite literally just 5 reps of about 4 or 5 different exercises, all body weight, like aside from some bands for like arm curls. You can't get any easier than that aside from doing 1 rep. It doesn't get any easier. And even still, my nervous system was still weak enough at that point, just doing 5 squats. I'm like, whoo, that was a lot. My legs would be a little bit tired. Or when I started doing push-ups again, 5 push-ups, I'm like my body's shaking by the time I'm on the 5th one. But I progressed so fast to where within a week I'm like, okay, I think I'm gonna push up to 10. And Krista wasn't really telling me at that point. She was just like sitting back and listening and saying, good, keep going. If you're feeling good, keep going. And I'd push up to 10, and then a week or two later I'd say, I'm feeling pretty good. I think I'm gonna push it up to 2 sets of 10. And I would, and then it got up to 3 sets of 10, then I went up 3 sets of 15 or 3 sets of 20 or something like that. And so it progressed very fast for about, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 weeks. And then I started feeling good enough. She said, you know what, why don't you go back to the gym? I think that'd be really good for you. I switched gyms, just nervous system familiarity type thing. So I switched gyms and saved myself some money. So I go in this new gym, which just felt good to get back to the gym. But then very shortly, I did more of a hit type workout where I was supersetting all my body parts together, and that smoked me pretty good. And so I had a pretty bad adjustment period. It lasted about a month, which I was disappointed of. I was disappointed, but through her encouragement and then watching videos again, I'm okay. This is actually good for me. This is necessary. And even still now, which I'll kind of lead through everything, but even still now, I'm continuing to try to level up and push, because I still now know that my nervous system is not going to get stronger if I'm not challenging it. So anyway, I get through that period. I probably took a good 2, 3 weeks off just to kind of recover. And then she's, you know what, why don't we start back a little bit lighter? And so I started back a little bit lighter. And then again, very quickly, this is again, my nervous system getting stronger again. I very quickly started feeling capable. And so next thing you know, it just was like very intuitive I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go start on the machines now. And I'd do the machines. And we're talking like when I started out doing like bicep curl machine, I was on like the one or first or second little plate. I'm not a small guy, and I'm like looking around like curling this tiny little plate. And
Most really, right? Just some slight resistance.
it's all I wanted was just the motion. So but knowing what I'd gone through, I wasn't embarrassed at all. It's just like, you know what, this is cool, because I know I had so much confidence in knowing that a few months later, 6 months later, a year later, whatever is going to be, that I'd be doing half the stack, and I can say, man, look how far I've come, which is the case now. So that, yeah, progressive machines, and talks about this in one of your videos about like the exercise portion of, I really just kind of followed that of, did body weight, then started doing more machines, and then just kind of kept getting stronger again, probably over the course of another month or so. And then just intuitively felt like, you know what, I think I can handle some free weights, and started incorporating some free weights again, and was pretty weak on those as well. And I think I probably had a couple more adjustment periods along the way, and probably was self-induced through exercise. But one, I had the assurance that this is good for me, that I'm going to heal from this. I wasn't ever thinking, okay, like I just went backwards. Instead, I had the confidence through the training of knowing like this is part of the course. Like I've got to go through it. It's part of what happens. I had set a couple fitness goals. So one was to deadlift 225. I can't remember what I put for reps, 8, 10, 12, something like that. And to do incline dumbbells with 70s. And 2 months in, I beat those goals, and I had those set for the rest of the year. I had those set for 12 months, and I beat them in the second month. Not really trying to be super aggressive on trying to beat them. It's just like my body just responded. That was really cool. And then I started saying, I don't know what to put on myself for a goal for the rest of the year. Like, I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, and I don't really feel like I want to go after. So then you know what, like I'm going to put a goal to be just 100% symptom free by the end of the year. And I don't really like putting a timeline on it, but I also think it's possible. So what I threw out there. So
Yeah, it's been a pretty awesome progression for you. And there's so many things to take away from that. I think 2 points. One of the things is, especially when you were starting at that very low weight, when you're first starting out implementing a lot of this stuff, and this is for everybody watching too, you do have to drop the ego a little bit, because old Mark probably wouldn't have been able to sit there and do those light weights, and everybody's watching, and you're probably thinking like, these people probably think I'm weak. This is crazy. Same thing with recovery. It's some people, they want to go from bedridden to just driving outside or walking outside. It's okay to use a little walker to hang onto the walls a little bit. It's totally fine. But even me, when I was in the gym, when I first started, it was you couldn't even put weight on the stack. It was the default one. And
Mhm.
I'm just doing seated rows and shoulder press. And even then, my muscles were torched. But I was okay with it because I knew this is just kind of the waking up phase, right? It's not always going to be.
I think when you go through something like this, that you wake up on the other side, there is no ego left. Like, it strips you of the ego and everything else. So, and it's one of the empowering things that people I've talked to that have gone through this or they've gone through other really serious trauma or disease or something like that is the intangibles that you get through suffering are so powerful on the other side. Just like the perspective. I was explaining to somebody, it's like being broke and being rich. You get to see both sides of the fence. Or having disease and being healthy, you get to see both sides. Most people throughout their entire lives only get to see one side of something. And so we
Yeah.
get to see both sides. And it gives us such a different perspective. And one of the things that I gained from the whole experience was just having empathy for people that are suffering. Whereas before, that muscle wasn't really a very strong one of mine. I've always been focused on what I want to accomplish. I never gave too much thought to what people are going through. But having gone through this myself, I'm like, man, it's strengthened my empathy muscle a lot. So that's actually something I'm really grateful for.
Yeah, yeah. And at the time when we're going through the stuff, these dark times, it could feel like the biggest curse that the universe is giving you. But once you come out the other side and look back on it, you're actually really grateful because, I mean, you
Hmm.
explore the depths of like the Marianas Trench, but also you explore the heights of life and the contrast. I think that's what makes the experience that much more special, I think, because what would life be
Hmm.
always cruising at that high altitude?
Yeah.
Difference that makes you appreciate the good times. Like,
It's I was just having a conversation, kind of slightly off topic, but it's having a conversation with somebody today about business. And you don't get better by doing things. You get better and smarter and all that by doing things wrong, by making mistakes. And it's the same way with this is we get better in life through going through some suffering. Without suffering, there is no growth. So it's as hard as it is, and it's devastating and awful and all adjectives you'd want to throw at it, the coming out the outside, the backside is beautiful. And I don't know if I've ever been as happy as I am right now, as far as just things going on in my life, how I feel, like how grateful I am for everything. It just feels really good. So coming out the backside, man, I'm like, man, this is a good place to be.
yeah, yeah, and that's another thing too. It's like, when we first get sick, we really want to get back to our old life and do all the things we used to do. But then once
Mhm.
you start fixing a lot of this nervous system stuff, you realize the whole reason you're there in the first place is because of the lifestyle leading up to it. So it's like you don't
Exactly.
even want to go back to that life. You want to
Right.
go a new and improved version of yourself, like a 2.0.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it benefits us in relationships and business and our health. Like, it benefits us in every way because we, even though a lot of people say, well, I don't believe in balance, there needs to be balance in life. There needs to be periods of rest. There needs to be periods of work. There, like, all that stuff. And so going through this, you can't help, especially if you go through your program and you heal, you can't help but to for that to be a part of your life afterwards. So it's not just a like what a lot of the calls, especially listen to some calls with Junior, that's not all about like just healing. I mean, there you've got a lot of personal growth type stuff intertwined into your trainings that a lot of people might not even realize. I've gone through enough personal growth, so I see it, but there's a lot of personal growth stuff in there that's really special that I think is going to help a lot of people.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So you've shared a bunch of stuff with have you grown physically in the last several months and all those improvements. In terms of cognitively, what does that look like now compared to 6 or 7 months ago in terms of like focus, being able to work, things like that?
Yeah, so I mean, so in business, we run a very lean team. It's just my assistant, myself, and so there's a lot on our plates. Not too much, but there can just be a lot of things to juggle all at once. And I was just thinking about that today as I was driving. I've got like different contractors calling me, and I've got to be in multiple places at once, just all that stuff. And like being healthy, I can juggle it all seamlessly, like without a hiccup. Whereas and I'm in real estate, and so I've got all these different addresses floating around. I can rattle them off, like I can think of them. I can remember addresses I did years ago. Um, but when I was sick, I couldn't think of one address I had at that time. Like I can't remember like where I'm supposed to go or what I'm supposed to do. So yeah, that makes all the difference. And just be able to have conversations with people I'm meeting and being able to have good dialogue and in negotiation, whatever it might be. Now I can do it all with confidence and without a problem whatsoever. I think that some of the healing has come in different waves. Some of it is more physical, some of it is more cognitive at just different times. But like they're all kind of balancing out. And I feel like they're all pretty much the same place now.
Yeah, yeah. And a big thing, well, when I was first recovering, I was wondering, will I actually be able to do all the things I used to do in terms of not just physically, but can I think sharp? Can I come up with creative ideas? And, I had to completely step away from that. And then what I learned is once you learn these kind of skills to keep your nervous system in check, you can actually be more effective and productive than prior to getting sick. Like you'll just have more
Hmm.
because you're doing things more efficiently. There's a lot
Hmm.
less energy drain because you're not over worrying or over analyzing stuff as well. So I find it
Hmm.
more productive than before. Like my output is way
Hmm.
not on a path to like burning out like I was before. Do you find
Yeah.
that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember one of the calls I had with Krista, a group call. She had talked about running on adrenaline. She's my whole life was running on adrenaline. And like that was really important for me to hear because I was like gave me some perspective to look back on my life. I'm like, man, my last decade has been ran off adrenaline. I'm always pushing, working out really hard, being really intense with work and just everything. And and I had that one of those conversations with her. I'm like, how did you stop running on adrenaline? I said, because I even found myself, that's probably October, November of last year, but I was still finding myself doing that. And she's a part of it's just being intentional about taking time to recover, having the rest time, and also just knowing, just having an insight of knowing that you're redlining, that you're running off adrenaline, and that you've got to, in order to have longevity, you've got to be able to operate in a different way. And so I started really thinking about that and taking breaks throughout my day and like really paying attention to like my heart rate and how I felt. And I'm just like, you know what? How do I accomplish everything I want to accomplish without feeling like I'm having to like push? And it's just once I knew all that and was intentional about it, it started changing. Yeah, most definitely. Like, so now I feel like, I can easily, and I did, prior to getting sick, I was thinking, I don't know if I've got 10 years left in this business. Like I'm wiped out. Whereas now I'm and another thing was something you're just I'm gonna digress for a second. But when I was sick, I noticed that I never had the ability to set goals. Like I just couldn't think big enough, couldn't think at all for that matter. But I could never like be in a goal setting type mode, or I could never think big or big vision or anything like that. But I've noticed when I would sometimes get those little glimpses of healing, I would get a little bit of inspiration, start thinking a little bit bigger again. I'm like, okay, like it's there. I'm just not recovered enough yet to be thinking bigger. And now as I've healed, like my vision's like going bigger than it's ever been. And I think it's also because I can see, you know what? I've got 20 years left in the business. So I can think 20 years out, 20 years beyond where I'm at.
And it's yeah, it makes things just way more sustainable. Like you found a way to quick jog through life versus just sprinting and slamming on the brakes and sprinting and slamming on the brakes. Yeah, you've shared a lot of golden nuggets on this call. For people watching this right now, what kind of words of inspiration would you want to share with them? Let's say there was someone out there who was in your shoes where you were a couple of years ago, and they're looking for answers. They're being turned away by doctors. They're starting to write their eulogy and thinking they're never going to come out of this. What are some words of inspiration you want to share with them if they have a hypersensitive nervous system, but they don't know it yet?
First off is you're not dying. You're not dying. So just to understand that, one of the things you talk about in one of your videos is when all the doctors are telling you there's nothing wrong, in a certain degree, you've got to take that and say, okay, like all my tests are coming up negative. That's a good thing, right? Like stop searching for something to be wrong and just to recognize that. And then I'd say the best thing I could tell somebody, and which I do anytime I talk to somebody that's going through this, is to plug in to whatever they have in front of them. And in my case, it was you or your training. And here's why: is it's not just because I believe in it because it's been good and helpful to me, but because I've seen people that haven't. So there's a lady that I was in a really high level mastermind with over the course of last year. She was on like a 9 or 10 of going through this. Like she'd recovered to a functional level, but she's still, and of course, this is before I got very deep in her stuff. And I'd be like, have you been able to start working out yet? She's like, I still can't work out. And I'm like, and so I would listen to her. I'm like, man, I'm doomed. I'm never going to be able to work out again. I'm never going to be able to like a lot of effort again into anything in my life. But point was, she didn't have the training, right? She didn't have a support system. She didn't have some like the baby steps leading her to recovery. She didn't have any of that stuff. And I know other people, like they're not putting themselves in something that gives them the ability to heal, and they're trying to do it on their own and they're not recovering. So when I look at them versus myself, that's a defining factor that I can attribute it to. So somebody that's not, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on a call, but it's what I believed from the beginning. That's why I jumped in so quick, is because finding somebody that has the answers is always going to be your fastest path to success. And that's just like anybody that goes through personal growth, coaching, business, that becomes a part of their mantra is growth. And the fastest way to growth is to find somebody else that's done it before you. Try to do it yourself and you're going to struggle.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And that's why we put out so much information online, is because some people, a lot of them actually can recover on their own, but some people need that extra hand holding. Like I know I did. When I met my doctor, I don't think I could have done it without him, because he was directly telling me based on my situation, you should do this, you should do this, don't do, here's what's going on. And it would have taken me who knows how long of trial and error to figure that out. You could really streamline and almost buy back your time in a way, save years, if not decades, by just getting the
I
answers.
mean, that's exactly how I looked at it was for the investment. We'll look at it this way. And I think maybe you even had asked that. I can't quite remember, but it was how much time was I missing out on work because I was sick, right? I was only working half days. Anyway, figure a person's income. And if you can only work part of your normal schedule or you can't thrive and do the best you can, you're losing out on outcome potential or income potential for a tiny little investment that once you heal, you can probably earn beyond what you've ever earned before because you've got new tools and new health and all that kind of stuff. So it's I know that some people so easily get caught up in spending money, but it's your health, man. It's there's literally nothing more worthwhile to spend your money on.
Yeah, exactly. And you're going to spend the money anyways on meds or emergency room visits or really lost income. It's not just expenses, but lost income and those
Mhm.
over time. So yeah, that's why we built this, and really just to give people the resources they need. And there's different levels of it too. There's different levels depending on where people are at. But my last question for you is, and I think you answered this in the last few minutes, but for you, would you say it's been a great investment?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like I told you before we hopped on the call, I had the last year was the best year of business we ever had. This year is the new best year of business we've ever had. And it's because I'm healthy. That's all it is. It's because I'm healthy and I can think clearly. I can work fully again, fully functional, happy, all of that. It's an absolute no-brainer. I guess I had the foresight and the confidence that this was going to be the outcome and this was going to be my answer. So that's why initially when we had the call, it was just a no-brainer to me.
Oh, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing some of your experience. It's been an awesome chat. Is there anything else you want to share with people watching this right now?
I don't know. I'm sure after this call, I'll think of a million different things I should have said or could have said. But yeah, I don't know, man. Just I've been there. Like I've seen different stories that you've shared, and there's different variabilities of how bad different people go through it. I know yours was terrible. Mine was terrible. Probably not. I wasn't in a wheelchair. I probably wasn't quite as bad as you. But most of us that experience this are going to experience it at a pretty devastating level. And so just know there were so many times where I didn't know if full recovery was possible. I really questioned it. Even when people were telling me, even when I was part of the program in the beginning, I saw myself recovering a little bit, but I still didn't have the full confidence that full recovery was possible. And I'm talking full recovery, no symptom, full recovery possibility. That's what I wanted. And like you said earlier, I just want to be like my old self again. I wanted to be symptom free again. Like I wanted that. And so to go from where I was 6, 7 months ago to now, as hard as I'm working and as hard as I'm working out, and I'm sleeping really good again, eating whatever I want, like everything, I'm doing everything in my life that I once did. And that's from a place of having massive insomnia, not sleeping for 3 to 5 nights in a row, going to doctors constantly, muscle twitches, thinking I had ALS, like losing 20 pounds. It was a bad place. So it's possible. Like that's just know that it's possible to heal.
Absolutely possible. And one of the coolest things is I know this is really just a plane getting off the runway for your life here. There's so much more to come, and it's going to get better and better. You did all of this in 6 to 7 months. So imagine where you're going to be in another 6 months from now, or by the end of this year or next year. And you got so much more life left to live. And it's just going to get better and better as you continue to.
And what's amazing is that yeah, so sometimes I bet you're like a lot like this, but you can have somewhat of a forecast or some intuition of what your life's going to look like based off of like where you're at and what you're going through and all that. And I know that the future of my life is phenomenal. Like things are going to happen, of course, but I can attribute a lot of what I see coming in my path to what I learned going through all of this. And we just covered it 15 minutes ago, but it's because I now have different tools. And I remember you guys saying this in training. I remember Chris is saying this, and I honestly didn't quite believe it at that time of it's gonna be a new type of you because you're going to have the tools. I'm okay. That's a good phrase to use, whatever. I honestly didn't quite believe it, but now having the tools and feeling balanced and knowing how to pace myself differently and knowing how to control my parasympathetic nervous system, how to get that engaged. And they're truly tools that are going to benefit me forever. Yeah. Super grateful for it.
Amazing, man. Appreciate you sharing all these golden nuggets with us. And for you guys watching this right now, recovery, just like Mark said, it is absolutely possible. As long as you've had your tests and scans done and the doctors can't find anything and you feel like you're spinning your tires, spinning your wheels, nothing's happening, it's probably a hypersensitive nervous system issue. And once you fix that, all of these symptoms go away. If you did want to learn more about our recovery systems here and see if this would even work for you, you just click the link down below and see if you're a good fit for something like this and if we can actually help you. If so, we would absolutely love to help you get your life back and go from surviving to thriving. So, Mark, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. You guys watching this right now, always remember that you are a thriver and you are just one mind shift away from living a life with thriving health. See you guys in the next video. And Mark, perhaps we'll be doing one of these talks again in another 6 to 12 months and seeing how much further you come.
I'd say that CFS recovery is absolutely the real deal.
I actually felt like somebody had an answer, like somebody explained what was going on and it all clicked.